411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. Boy, your girl, 411 Live.
What does sex trafficking look like in your community? It's not there? Are you sure? Hello, I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is another edition of the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk. We are engaging in a campaign of expanding the conversation and the awareness on human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking. Our topic today is, what does sex trafficking look like on the south side of Milwaukee? Joining us, special guest, Deanne Lawson, and she is the founder of Inner Beauty Center.
Correct.
Welcome to you.
Well, thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Absolutely. Full disclosure, we have met before.
Yes,
and
we
we
have.
have talked before.
Yes.
And it is my pleasure to have you here joining us. I want to talk about, just jump right in because it's only 30 minutes and we could go a long time. The Inner Beauty Center. Tell me that backstory of how it came to be.
Well, my husband was pastoring a church on 15th and Lincoln, and we started in 2000. We were there for a total of 15 years. But in 2011, we were getting a little bit burnt out, and we were dealing with an issue of women standing on our church steps because it was a convenient corner. There's a bus stop, there was a light, and there was a little overhang so you could be out of the elements. And we did what everybody else told us to do, what society would do, and we told them either get off the streets, we would call the police. And in the summer of 2011, a young lady came into our church and said she wanted to talk to someone. And so I sat down with her, and the first thing she said to me was, God told me if I came in here, you would help me. And I will be very honest, my first thought was, of course, you're a drug addict and we're a church. And then she told me her story. And from there, I saw a woman who, she had been deceived. She had been brought to Milwaukee from another state. Her friend said, hey, my boyfriend and I have a place in Milwaukee. You can come stay with us until you find a job. There's lots of work in Milwaukee. And she was brought to an apartment about a half a block north of our church.
Okay.
And there were 6 women sitting on the floor being treated like animals. And she was forced to go out and to sell her body in order to make money for the boyfriend, for her friend's boyfriend.
Boyfriend, yeah.
And so when she came in, I could see that she was a woman who was definitely in need of she needed someone to help her. She was terrorized. She kept checking her watch, and she's like, I got to get going. I have to get out there. If he can't find me, he's going to beat me up.
Wow.
And so I got some information from her. We made arrangements that she would call us that afternoon, and we would pick her up. And she said, I only have about 15 minutes. Otherwise, he will come looking for me. So sure enough, she called and we picked her up. And as we're driving, I told her, the only place I can take you is to the mental health complex because you have no identification. You're not from Wisconsin. And she goes, that's fine, because if you don't help me, I'm going to kill myself anyway.
Wow.
And so we took her out there, and on the drive out there, her pimp kept calling her, and he would just scream at her, and she was so visibly shooken up. And then he hung up, and when he called back, I said, you don't have to take that call.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me like, you're kidding, really? I don't?
Yeah.
And
I can have that power. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I said, you're going to get out to the mental health complex. They're going to take the phone away. So just turn it off. And she did. And it was, so that was our first exposure to human trafficking. And I didn't really call it that. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that this woman was in desperate need of help, and we helped her. And from there started our journey, my journey, and some other women in the church of just learning what human trafficking was. September 15th, 2012, we opened our drop-in center. And we started it with a self-defense class. And we've been open every week since. So we started with one day a week, Tuesday, and now we have expanded to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evening.
Now, so was it hard to get everybody on board for this?
It was a challenge because the church was kind of divided. Some of the people were very supportive of it, and other people were like, "No, you're just enabling, and how can you have those people come into our church?"
Mhm.
And then, there was another group of people that were actually clientele of the women, and so that was extremely awkward because I knew things about people in our congregation that I really didn't wanna know.
Mhm.
And so it took a lot, but eventually people began to understand. And we just talked and educated. And the more we educated, the more people realized that, wait a minute, this isn't a choice. This isn't as simple as just getting up and walking away and getting a job and walking away from it. It's not that simple.
Absolutely. In this time, you've learned a lot
Tremendous.
about the sex trafficking and the trauma and
Mhm.
all the things that go into this. And you've heard a multitude of stories. But tell me, you said you started with the self defense like once a week,
Mhm.
but you guys are doing so much more now.
Well, we do outreach 2 to 3 times a week. We try to be out there every Friday night, and on Friday nights, we've partnered with some other organizations that help us to give out some pretty decent lunches, and so we make bag lunches and we hand that out in personal care and seasonal clothing. So right now, it's gloves, hand warmers, hats, scarves, that kind of thing,
And
jackets.
I'm gonna stop you right there because I don't want to just skirt over that. You guys are actually out on the
Mhm.
street
Yeah.
going. What? You jump in cars or vans
No,
loaded up? How do you do this?
we just kinda cruise,
Yeah.
and you get to know the look of somebody who's out there working,
Mhm.
and once in a while, we miss, but, not too often have the women been offended. If they live in that neighborhood, they know what goes on, so they're like, "No, no, no, but if you go down here." So we just drive around, and we have a number of women that we've had multiple contacts with,
Mhm.
so they wave us down or they, wait for us, yell at us. So we connect with them on the streets, but then we're trying to connect with women who are obviously trafficked. And the women who are trafficked are really difficult to connect with
Right.
because they're being watched. Their pimp is in the cut. They have somebody always, if it's not their trafficker, it's somebody they've hired to watch.
Mhm.
And so we have a general rule that if a woman is walking and there's a man nearby, and we can usually tell if he's watching her or if he's with her, we don't even try to make contact because we know that puts her in danger and it
Right.
puts us in danger. So we're kind of selective about how we make that approach. But if she's alone, we'll try. And sometimes they just blow us off. They go, "No, I'm good. I don't need anything." And we have had some women who recognized us. Somebody has told them about us, and so they'll walk by. This actually happened. A woman was walking with her trafficker. He proceeded to go on, and she turned around and came back our way, but she went past us a little bit, and when he was out of sight, she quickly came over to us.
Oh, wow.
So she was more than happy to come and get something to eat because I think sometimes I know they're controlled by how much they can eat, and
Mm,
they can't spend any of the money they make. They have quotas they have to turn over. So they're very controlled, very restricted.
the life is hard.
Mhm.
You have it now. It's more than one day a week.
Right.
They come
So
in and do different things.
Right. So at the drop-in center, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evening from 4 to 7, women can come in and get a meal. They can go through our clothing boutique. They can access personal care items. And then we build relationship with them. And so as a woman is ready to move out of the life of sexual exploitation, because some women who come in, they're addicted and they had been trafficked in the past. They're not currently being trafficked, but the trauma is there and they feel like this is all they're ever
Right.
going
That's
to
all I
be.
know. Yeah.
That's all I know. And so when they are at a place to say, hey, you talked to me, you said you could help me. What are my options? And so then we begin to sit down and we talk about options and give them places they can contact and whether they have to go through detox first or they can go right to a program. So it isn't like take me now kind of thing, but it is a process. And so we try to connect and help them out.
So, and then sometimes they come, I guess the majority, they will come and they don't tell you that they're ready to come out.
No, right. Sometimes for a long time.
Yeah.
So there was one woman, I think the longest that we attempted to connect with her on the streets for about 6 months. And once we made a connection, it took about another 3 months before she began opening up to us. And then and actually now she's been a client. We're still providing support to her, emotional support, and once in a while a little bit of financial support. But she has moved from a place of being with a trafficker to getting her education to now having employment and having her own place and being able to just move forward in life. And so it is a marvelous thing to be able to see that. But that took probably about 3 years for her to really get to that place, maybe even a little longer.
Yeah, that's rewarding too, to know that you had a hand in that. And the initial woman who kind of prompted all of this, you really literally saved her life because she was going to
think
take
so.
it.
I think so. Right. She had enough. She was desperate for help. And I do believe that she would have been beaten to death by the trafficker or she would have just killed herself. Right.
We had interesting conversation. You were telling me about the differences that you see. You can kind of tell who's, I don't know, the pimp status or how he grooms his women because of the way the ladies look on the street.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So we began to notice a very distinct difference between the women who are typically on National Avenue versus the ones on Greenfield. Greenfield has our highest number of contacts, but the women on Greenfield are typically drug addicted, but the women on National who are being trafficked, they're not drug addicted. They're well kept. They have beautiful nails, beautiful hair. They're not dressed like Vegas kind of style. They're just dressed nicely and they carry themselves differently. And so you just know, like when we talk to her and her skin is clear and she's a beautiful smile and she's so put together, why is she out there at 11 o'clock at night on National Avenue? There's really only one reason.
Right.
And so she's out there because the traffickers made her be out there and she's making money for him. So a big difference. You can see it.
Wow. Like I said, I say it again, you've learned a lot on this journey of the different women and the things that they bring in there and the fears and the threats that they undergo. I mean, like the women on Greenfield who are drug addicted, who are involved in this. And you were saying many of them have come out from underneath a sex trafficker, but just don't know.
Right. They don't know. Or they're now being their trafficker is somebody different. It's their drug dealer. It's maybe just the drug itself. So, but we've seen a lot of women now who actually are being trafficked by the drug dealer because of how they're controlling how much they give to them, how much the extra additional fees they have to pay. It's become quite a business.
Yeah. If those folks went into legitimate business,
oh my gosh,
they could probably do well.
Yeah. They have business minds. It's just that they've used it in a corrupt way.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. Deanne, we're going to take a break, but we still have much more to talk about. So if you are watching or listening and you have questions or comments, send them our way because we really would like you to be a part of our conversation and we want to see that. But right now we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Human trafficking is a global issue that is happening locally. This is a problem that we cannot ignore.
Being so scared on that hotel bed and wish I had my mommy. Going back into that feeling of, man, what am I getting myself into?
She rests her head on the prison to which she's chained.
I'm standing there and I can't move. I can't go nowhere, I'm stuck.
Drug into this spider's web, and she can't untangle herself to freedom.
Him telling me how pretty I am and what I can do to trick guys out of money and what I need to do and how much money I need to bring back, and him making me change into different lingeries to take pictures of me to put me on Craigslist. Now I'm a product to be sold.
Beneath this ground we walk is a hell of movement in a forced direction. Gridlocked, traffic lights, sex, currency, bodies, stock, fear, monopolized, auction, blocks.
Another job, he come another one, and just being sold over and over and over and over.
Minds groomed to be immune to pain.
And you used to it, and you just lay there.
Numb, desensitized, innocence, drained.
I went from that scared little girl, from the foster care, from being molested by my stepbrother, by my foster brother, till being a lonely little girl stuck in a house, so scared with my mother, to being trafficked.
Welcome back. We are joined by Deanne Lawson, who is founder of Inner Beauty Center on the south side of Milwaukee. Our topic is, what does sex trafficking look like on the south side of Milwaukee? So we went to an expert to find out. We were talking about, you mentioned the journey of the one woman who now has two jobs and, she's doing well.
Mhm.
You get those bright spots, but you have to deal with those sad
Yeah.
things, the heartbreaking stories as
Right.
well, right?
Right. That lifestyle is so dangerous, and it's full of violence and aggression. We started 2 summers ago. We started a Remember Me tree at our drop-in center, and it was initiated because in the course of 3 days, there were 4 people who were murdered on the south side of
Wow.
Milwaukee. 3 were women, and we had contact with all 3 women. In fact, 2 had been into our drop-in center not too much prior to their murders. And it really shook us all up. And we thought we have to do something. And so we set up a Remember Me tree.
Mhm.
And so we have now I have 4 more women to add to it from the last couple, maybe 6, 8 weeks. But we have a total of 22 women whose
That's
names
so
are on that
sad.
tree. It is, and a majority of them have died from overdose. There's been maybe just under half who have been murdered, and then overdose. And there's only one that has passed away from natural causes.
Wow.
And so and at first I was a little hesitant about it, but I thought, no, we have to do this. And about a month ago, there were 3, 4 women standing there looking at the tree, and they were saying, "Oh, do you remember her? And do you remember this one?" And then one of the ladies, she's looking and looking. She goes, "Hey, you don't have so and so's name up here, and I don't see her name up here either."
Oh, wow.
And so I said, "We'll put them up there." And it has become a place where the women, they really are remembering women that are so often just forgotten about,
Mhm.
because our society sees them, and I know that's the way it was in our church, is that they were kind of refuge. They were refuse, and they were just from the gutter, and nobody wanted to deal with them, and that was just not the way that we were supposed to be ministering. I really feel like God put this mission field on our church steps, and so I'm very serious about that mission field, and so that has become part of it, is to remember those who have passed away. And sometimes women come in and they have black eyes and they've been beaten up. Some women come in who have been beaten by a John, a trick, a date, and left for dead. And now they suffer permanent damage from that, not just emotional, but physical damage from it. So that lifestyle is extremely dangerous.
Wow.
It really is.
I would imagine that because you've been out there so long, the women that you have come in contact with who are comfortable with you and they come to your place, they kind of help as far as reaching some of these other women, just kind of the word of mouth.
Absolutely.
You can trust them.
They do that. I remember this was a few years back, but we were doing outreach and we saw 3 new young ladies, and there was another woman who went by that we have had multiple contacts with, and she saw them turn us down. Like, she came back and she says, girls, you want what she has. She's cool. They're okay. You can Inner Beauty Center is a good place. You can take what they have. And that just really said a lot, and we have come across women who have said, we've never met, but they've said, hey, somebody told me about you guys. And so they were happy to meet us in the streets. Right. And so that has really laid a very solid foundation for us to be, I guess, vetted with the women on the streets, that they're not afraid of us. I remember initially that first year we did outreach and we had hot chocolate to hand out. And so we had water in the packets, and 2 ladies went walking by. It was cold that night. And we said, hey, do you want some hot chocolate? And they were like, no. And I thought, something's wrong here. So I held up the packets and I said, marshmallows or no marshmallows? Right. And they looked. And these 2 women came back and they were like, yeah, all of the marshmallow. And they were like, we thought you were white witches coming to harm us.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, we're not out here to harm you,
Wow.
And that just really blew our mind.
Yeah.
So we've gone from a place where where the woman would not accept anything from us to a place where they're like waving us down for our sandwiches, So we have come a long ways with the women.
That is true. Yeah. Sometimes do they come just to say, I just need a place to sit, maybe just take a nap,
right.
Just relax for a minute.
We're kind of restricted in space. So we do have 2 cots that the women can rest on, but we have another sofa and one other one that we can utilize from time to time. But the women do come in and they actually sleep. Like they're snoring sleeping. Because when they're sleeping in the drug house or they're sleeping somewhere else, you sleep with one eye open.
Yeah.
Because otherwise somebody's going to assault you. They'll rob from you. They'll take all your items and they come in and they go, somebody stole all my clothes. And that purse you gave me yesterday, they stole that with everything in it.
Oh, wow.
ID, whatever. So there's no safe place for a lot of the women to put things of value.
Yeah.
So everything becomes disposable.
Deanne, how do you fund all this?
Well, we are privately funded. We were also part of a grant that Sojourner was managing to provide services for human trafficking victims. That grant has ended, so now we are trying to look for other funding sources. But basically, we are privately funded through individuals, through churches, through some smaller grants, through foundations, and some not so small. Sometimes we've seen a little bit of an increase, and so that's been a real blessing to us. So yeah.
And in the work, and because it's a mission for you, it's a ministry for you. Do other churches just come alongside you, or?
We do. We have a few churches, and then we just have individuals who have heard about us, and those are the volunteers that help operate the drop-in center, or those are the ones that they make a meal, bring it in. There's a group of retired nuns that make a meal about once every 2 months. And several of them get together and they each do a part and then
Yeah.
they bring it together. And it's such a blessing. The women bring it in and they're so excited about doing this. And so we have just a variety of volunteer spaces. And then we have some needs for professional volunteers in the area of like grant writing or bookkeeping, that sort of thing. So we have, as we grow, we're seeing more and more needs, not just for laborers, but also for professional help as well. So,
What do you think the biggest myths are surrounding sex trafficking that people have?
the biggest one, and I hear it all the time, well, why don't they just get up and leave?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, they can't. They can't because the trafficker has threatened them to harm family, relatives. They know where their kids go to school. They know where their grandma lives. We have seen traffickers really immerse themselves in their families. And so the families are kind of brought into this, well, but he's a nice guy. You should be thankful you have a man so nice as him.
Oh, wow.
And it's like,
Right.
but that's the manipulation and the control that a trafficker will bring into that situation. So it's not as easy to get up and walk away. And then if you have one who's been controlling you with addictions, then you have to deal with becoming the addiction. You have to go through detox. For many women, heroin detox is the most terrifying thing to go through. They fear it because it is so terrible.
Yeah. There are quite a few heroin addicts out there.
Yeah, there are. It kind of seems to be more south side, but then I've heard that the heroin has also moved north side, where typically I think it was crack more on the north side, heroin on the south side, but that's blending.
Yeah.
That's blending over. We have probably just as many heroin addicts as we do crack addicts on the south side.
Really?
So it's just addictions have just become rampant, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your hopes?
Oh, well, you can have this idealistic world that someday this will all be gone, but, I don't think that'll happen in this lifetime. So, because there will always be addiction and people taking advantage and exploiting individuals for whatever labor or sex trafficking. So, our whole long term, we would like to be able to offer some sort of transitional housing. We really don't see ourselves being in that front line of the AODA. That's just not who we are. But we have a lot of volunteers that would be they would just be excellent at coming alongside of a woman and helping her with resume building and finding jobs and learning life skills and that sort of thing. So that's a long-term goal. We're not anywhere near being ready for that. But so right now that we can just continue to expand our hours and so expand our support so that we can pay staff. So and that'll be the biggest thing that we will have lost when that grant ended, is that we'll probably no longer have paid staff. So, and that includes myself. So we're still kind of in the air on that, but it will affect us. So
That's tough because then they would become volunteers and they would be doing as much or more work.
Right. As a volunteer. And volunteerism just goes only so far.
Right.
Eventually you want to get a paycheck out of it. So that's one thing that we are really trying to focus on, is increasing our support so that we can continue to provide services like this. And it's working in the women's lives. Last year we provided services to 30 women who were victims of human trafficking. And granted, that was because of the grant that we had, but we still continue those relationships, even though the grant is gone. We're still continuing, and so as client advocates, we're really a support system to the women, and whatever we can do to help, we will.
Yeah. You can't say, well, my money dried up, so
Yeah.
I can't help you anymore.
Yeah,
You
I
can't-
mean,
you
we'll
can't
give
do
what
that.
we can,
Yeah.
but we have had to tell them, some of the financial assistance is gone, and so when we are able to secure and help, so always ask, but the answer may be no for now.
Yeah.
So we help in other ways. We have, we put out a post on Facebook that we need beds or we need furniture, and we have it.
Yeah, that's a
And
blessing. Yeah.
so we have some donors out there that give gifts in kind, that no matter what we need, we just let them know, and it's there.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so cool. I just think, like, because some people can't be frontline,
hmm
but they want to support it. And so that's
And you
one
need
way.
those people.
We need those people. We can't do it without them.
Right.
Right.
I was thinking about the many stories that you have, and you've told us a few. Is there one that one woman you just can't get her out of your mind?
Well, there's actually a lot of them. So, um, um, over the years, there have been a lot of women, and I think one, and this really kind of speaks to how difficult it is to get out. And I don't believe that she was trafficked, but she was addicted. And so she was out there working in that lifestyle for her addiction. But she would come in and she would say, "Hey, Miss D, you'll take me to detox today, right?" And I'm like, "Hey, if you're ready, I'll go. I'll take you." And she, "Okay, I'm just going to go have a cigarette and I'll be right back." And then we wouldn't see her for 2 weeks. And she just wasn't ready. And then one night she came in and she's like, she was dope sick. She was sick to her. She was, yeah, just dope sick. And she said, "Tonight, Miss D, can you take me?" And the tone of her voice was different, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take you. I take you now, but I can't leave just yet." And took her to detox, and she was able to get into a local program, and now she is 3 years later. She has her children. She has an apartment. She
Wow.
has a really good paying job. She's had to pay her dues getting back into the workforce, but she has a great job, and she just bought a new car, and to her that was like, "How does that feel?" And she's like, "Well, I feel like somebody's going to take it away from me." But I'm like, "No, you earned that.
Yeah.
And that's
Work hard
yours."
for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that to see that, and now she's come full circle and she's volunteering with us. And so she now can see the women that she used to be out there with and say, and they can look at her and go, "Well, if you can do it, I can do it."
Wow.
Yeah. So that's been just really encouraging. And
That's
then,
a great story.
yeah, it is. And so I tell her, I'm like, I tell that story just so you know. So, and we laugh about that, "Yeah, I'll be right back." And then 2-3 weeks later, she finally comes back. So,
Deanne, if someone is seeing this or hearing this and they would like to help,
mhm.
where are you located? How can they help you?
So we are located at 1300 South Layton Boulevard, which is 27th Street. We lease the fourth floor of a building, an office building that Ascension Lutheran Church has. And so you can't really drop off donations unless you call first, because we are really only there 3 days a week. And I do some office time there. But in order for us to work with clients, we need to have at least 2 people there. So we have those 3 nights a week that we're open. But our website, you can go to our website and you can download a volunteer application form. All the contact information is on there. Our address is on the website. We just added we'll be adding through PayPal, people can set up reoccurring donations now.
Okay.
And so they can just go in and click on that link and set that up. So if they want to give every month, but they're not good about remembering, they can just set it up.
It's taken care
Yep.
of for them.
Mhm.
What is your address or
So the
website?
the website is innerbeautycenter.org.
Okay.
So,
Simple.
yeah, very simple. And if you want to send emails, the easiest way to send it is to admin@innerbeautycenter.org.
Very
So,
nice.
yeah.
Deanne Lawson, founder of Inner Beauty Center. Thank you for
You're
coming.
welcome. Thank you.
I love talking to you. I love the stories that you tell, and I really appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us for another edition of the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. I'm Beverly Taylor. I also want to remind you that we are a nonprofit organization. So if you are so inclined to help us, go to our website, the411live.org, and of course, help us out. If you want to see past episodes, because we have a lot of them now, we're accumulating, we're growing, just go to the Facebook, our YouTube channel, Twitter, iHeartRadio podcast, and you can find us there. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm Beverly Taylor, the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. Hopefully, you'll join us next time.